'Cause like a winter tonight, I thought I would always have light. The quick flash that you gave to me, so dark I could barely see.
From wherever you are around the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be exploring the culture code. Does it make a difference when you advertise? Does it make a difference when you market to know the culture you're marketing to? We're going to find out with Dr. Clotaire Rapaille. Dr. Rapaille wrote this wonderful book called The Culture Code. He is the chairman of Archetype Discoveries Worldwide and has used this decoding approach for 30 years. He is the personal advisor to 10 high-ranking CEOs and is kept on retainer by 50 Fortune 100 companies. He has been profiled in many national media outlets such as 60 Minutes and on the front page of the New York Times Sunday Style section. Let's welcome to the show Dr. Rapaille. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is a really fascinating topic because I think people really drop the ball when they're trying to market to other countries because they think everybody thinks like we do.
Yeah.
Especially in America, right? So I guess the first question is, are people really that different?
Well, you see, I will answer this question through an example. One of my clients, Pantene, you know Pantene, the shampoo company?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they say, they ask me the same question. Do you think people are the same all around the world? Can we promote a brand like Pantene and it will work worldwide? And I believe in the three brands. We have three brands, and everybody around the world have three brands. One is the cortex, which is intellectual. The second one is limbic, which is emotional. And the third one is reptilian, which is survival and reproduction. All right. So they say people around the world need to wash their hair. Okay, why? Well, because they want to be clean. All right, so let's explore clean. So if you're familiar with the Japanese versus the Chinese, if you're familiar with Japanese culture, you go to a Japanese bathroom and it looks like it's a spaceship. It's all this equipment and things, and even special noise for women that when they use the bathroom, nobody can hear what they're doing. So there is a special background noise that they push a button to. It's just a spaceship. All right.
Wow.
But you go to China, and this is a very different situation. Clean doesn't mean the same in China. And so in China, you have the bathroom and the kitchen at the same place, which means that the smell of food and excrements are usually mixed. And you go to a bathroom in China, even the ceiling is dirty. You don't know how they do that, maybe the acrobat or what, but something is. So there is definitely a big difference in notion of clean. So I told Pantene, you're never going to go global about clean because clean is not the same. Even between France and Germany, Germans are 10 times cleaner than French. We know that already, just by looking at the numbers of how many toothpaste and toothbrush you sell. So they say, okay, well, let's go into another dimension, which is seduction. Around the world, people want to seduce each other, and women want to be beautiful, want to have a very seductive hair, and so on. I say, fine. But, if you look at seduction in Italy versus seduction in Germany, this is definitely not the same. You cannot appeal to the Chinese, to the Italian versus the German the same way. So forget about seduction. Oh, I say, okay, all right. So what? What is left? So I say, well, the reptilian, what I call the reptilian brain, is not influenced by culture, is inherited at birth. Is the same for every culture. So, you don't need to learn how to breathe, how to eat, how to sleep. This is reptilian survival, right? So I say, look, our target are women around the world. They have something in common. They all equipped with a special equipment over here to breastfeed their children, right? And so, because feeding, that's loving for women. Why? Because it starts inside the womb, and then when the baby is born, you have to keep feeding and so on. Now, why do they feed their children? Why? I'm always asking why. I want to understand why, not what people say. I don't believe what people say. But I want to understand why they're doing what they do. And so we discover very easily that why do you feed your children? Because you want the children to grow. So then I say to Pantene, okay, guys, you're not in the shampoo business anymore. You are in the food business.
Food.
You're going to give Pantene for women to feed their hair for their hair to grow. And that was common and a big success worldwide because it's based on the reptilian. and the need to feed to grow. And that was a big success. So yes, we can find some common element worldwide, but we have to take care not to take something that can be a disconnect with some cultures.
That's brilliant. I never even thought about it that way. Let me ask you this question. This is not one of the questions I threw at you here, but now it's popping up in my head. Culture, you said the reptilian brain isn't affected by culture necessarily,
No.
but the emotional part, is that affected by culture?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes, very, very much, very much.
And do you
see,
focus primarily on, I'm sorry?
I can give you, can you hear me very well?
Yes.
Yeah, I can give you an example. I study banana, banana, from Chiquita Banana. Chiquita Banana, a very nice brand. And they say, the banana is the first food that you mash and crush and have to give to the little children. And so the mother and the little child and the food is a key element there. So we did the kind of work I do, which is I don't really what people say, but I go to their first imprint. What is the first imprint you have of what you want to do here? And we did that in Germany, in Italy, and in Sweden. And I can tell you the culture pre-organized what it means to be a mother. I mean, we know that at a reptilian level, mothers have to feed their children. But how they're going to do it is completely different if you go from Germany to Italy or to Sweden. Let's take the opposite, Swedish mother versus Italian mother. Completely the opposite. In Italy, the mama, this is the center of the universe. The mama, men, even when they are 45, they still go to see their mother for the mother to iron their shirts, because only mother can do it. You see, this is just, and mama is the center of the universe, it's emotional. In Sweden, most of the time, the women give their children to a kindergarten, a place where there are some civil servants paid to take care of them. So there is not at all this kind of emotional attachment there. So, and this is influenced because in Italy there is a very traditional Catholic dimension with Mary, the mother of Christ as an archetype that you want to acknowledge. When in Sweden is a very different, more cold culture, more down to earth in a sense of more practical. And so the translation after that, after several generations of the same dimension, a mother doesn't mean the same there are some reptilian elements that are common, but it's not the same in Italy and in Sweden.
Definitely completely different. Extremely fascinating. Well, you can definitely mess up really big on your product selling. No doubt about it. So I think we might have answered the question, but maybe you want to elaborate a little bit more. The culture code.
Right. Yeah, you see, we human cannot survive left alone in a forest. If you take a baby and put him in the forest, unless some wolves come by and take care of him, the mother wolf, the baby doesn't survive. So we're not finished when we are born. We're not completed. We cannot survive. A little horse can survive very quickly by itself and so on. So we need an environment to help us to keep growing, right, and to evolve. So that's why culture absolutely necessary. Now, for me, the definition is very simple. A culture is a survival kit inherited at birth. It's survival, but it's like a kit. It's a series of things, how to hunt if you need to hunt, how to get warm, how to feed. So survival kit. I'm not speaking here about higher culture like opera or music or thing like that, because first you need to breathe before you can go to the opera. You see, you need to. So there is some basic thing that need to. So that's the basic priority. Now, a culture is like a magnetic field. A magnetic field that pre-organizes the way you're going to survive. They give you some recipes on how to survive, right? And it's transmitted from one generation to another, to another, to another. So that's what there is a code for that. Once you understand the code, you understand how to trigger or activate the magnetic field, if you want. Let me give you an example, because I think examples speak by itself. The difference between cheese in France and in America. Very simple, right? So in France, if you want to eat some cheese, the culture tells you that the cheese has to be alive. You don't want to eat a cheese that is not alive, which means the cheese has to be alive. That's why You go to buy some cheese and you're going to smell the cheese. Why? The smell is an indicator of how old is the cheese. Then you're going to poke the cheese. Why do they do that? Because if it's like this, it's too old. If it's like the table, it's too hard. If it's like this, it's good to eat today. So the culture tells you to enjoy the cheese is you have to eat it when it's acre, which is up to the heart. Even the center is good. And by the way, this is a survival kit because if you wait too long, it might poison you because it's so long, you know. Now, in America, it's completely different. The culture tells you the cheese has to be dead. American eat dead cheese. Dead cheese. It's completely dead. It's legally dead. And it's pasteurized. It's scientifically dead. So why? Because the priority in the American culture is not the taste. The priority is biology and survival. I want to make sure that this is safe. So, you know, in France, there are like 300 or 400 people every year that died because of cheese.
300 or 400?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
three or 400. Yeah. So in America, we don't want that. This is terrible. So this is illegal and scientifically pasteurized. So now the cheese is dead. Now we see, you understand why the cheese in America, they're all wrapped up in plastic, like if they were in a body bag. And then they're dead. And then Americans buy some cheese, they go home. Where do they put the cheese? In the fridge, which is in the morgue. That's where they put the dead bodies, right? And then when you eat it, it doesn't matter. It's dead anyway. You can eat it anytime you want. You know? So they can keep cheese for a long time. So survival again, you know, but the priority in the French culture is taste, even if you want to take the risk that you might be in danger. But if you respect the rules of the culture, then you should not get sick. And in America, because you know we have even signs that say don't get too close to the swimming pool because you might get wet with the water. You know? So this is like so we have to tell them, hey, the cheese is dead. Don't worry. That's right.
I don't think I'll be having cheese today, by the way. Quick question for you. How does the French culture perceive our cheese then? Do they look at it kind of like it's sacrilegious, what we've done to our cheese?
Well, you see, they understand that, you know, first of all, we have to accept, you know, I'm an American today, so I don't want you to think that I'm criticizing the American culture. But, you know, the cliche and the stereotype about the French are unfortunately true. They're real. So the French are arrogant, very arrogant. They believe that the only one to understand cheese. So they're not surprised that American, they kill the cheese. You know, they say, oh, these guys, anyway, they don't know anything about what is really good taste and things like that. So, you know. By the way, the French like to criticize the American, but they all would like to become American, by the way. Especially right now when they have so many problems in France and so on.
That could be another book for you, I think.
Yeah.
Technology has brought the world closer. It's made the world a lot smaller. We've got to see a lot. Obviously, it changes culture codes in a sense because other cultures see how Americans do it, how the French do it, how German does it, and they can kind of adapt and change their behavior. Did you notice any changes like that when you talk to companies?
Yes, absolutely. You know, but it's not exactly the way we think it's happening. What is happening is not like we're melting everybody into kind of an average culture. It's not that at all. What is happening is what I call the Great Divide. And I have a new book going to come soon called The Global Code. The Global Code. After the Culture Code, the Global Code. And the Global Code exactly answers this question. Are we becoming all the same? Actually, what is happening is that what I call the Great Divide. And there is more and more people into the electronic world, you know, the cell phone, the computer, and that. And they are, so I call that the E world, E like electronic. And then there is the people that are into the real world. The people that want to touch people, speak to people. You know, a company like Hermes, for example. Hermes, they are into the real world. You know, this is real leather. This is done by hand. This is done by artisan. This is not done by machine. You know, but on the other hand, Google. You know, when you Google to find out a definition, it's never the same, and there is no expert behind that, and it keeps changing all the time. Can you trust it? Well, no, not really, but who cares? You know, kind of. So you see, so this is the opposition into the two worlds that we're discovering. Now, I've done something on the millennial recently, the millennial, you know, and I went around the world. I went to Asia, I went to the Middle East, I went to Europe, I went to South America. Okay. what I found is that all this young, 18 to 24, let's say 18, 24-year-old, they're all the same on that respect of the e-culture, the electronic culture. They're all anxious. They're very anxious about what? They're anxious about text. I text, therefore I am. I text, therefore I am. If I don't text, I am not anymore. And then there is, I call that the technosophy, the philosophy coming from technology. Technology imposed a new philosophy to all these kids around the world. For example, if you receive a text, if you don't answer right away, that's a message, which means that, oh, you don't care about me, you don't love me anymore. So they have to, they're anxious about answering right away, and they all look down. Nobody looks at each other. They all I know. I've seen many of these people. They are having a romantic dinner, candle, champagne, and so on, and both of them, they are on their cell phone, not even looking at each other. So that's in Korea, in China, in Turkey, in Singapore, in Korea. I mean, in Brazil, in Istanbul, everywhere.
Really?
So this is the technology is the same everywhere, and so at that level, there is a uniformity of the way these kids react, which is quite fascinating.
That is very fascinating. It's amazing. It's permeated everybody like that.
Yeah.
Did you find any cultures just by chance that did not do that, or no?
No.
Now what?
We didn't go to Africa, but now we're going to do this year to different part of Africa to check if this is the same over there. Because they don't have much money, so they might not be able to buy a cell phone. But we already know that in Africa, 85% of the people that have cell phone use the cell phone to pay, mobile money, right? So in Europe, only 2% of the people that have cell phone use it to pay. But in Africa, well, because if you have cash, some people are going to kill you to take your cash. If you have a credit card, some people are going to steal it. So, if you have a code and a cell phone, it's safer for sure. But on the other hand, the fact that they're already doing it now is preparing them for the future of this all this technology. So African might be ahead of us in 10 years.
That's fascinating. Really fascinating stuff.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
You mentioned the millennials earlier, which is one of my questions. How does the culture code get affected by generational differences, or does it?
Well, you see, yes and no. There is two elements. There is the structure and there is the content, if you want. Let me explain that. I'm sure you remember Romeo and Juliet,
Sure.
but there is also West Side Story. So the difference between West Side Story and Romeo and Juliet is that this is the same structure, but with different content. For example, Romeo and Juliet, they didn't have any cars, when in West Side Story, there are cars everywhere. Okay, so what changes? What changes is the content, but what doesn't change is the structure. You see, so for example, I've been studying France. I was born in France, and I became an American 30 years ago, but I'm still observing how French is changing or not changing, if you want. I can tell you, this is kind of confidential here, but I love the French culture. I hate the French. I think that they inherited of something that they don't deserve, if you want. Right? Anyway, so if you look at the culture in France, in the 18th century, the aristocrat had a choice between the red or the black, the rouge ou le noir, which is a standard novel, which means they choose to either be giving their life to God and become a priest, black, or they give their life to the king and they choose to become a soldier, red. Right? Nothing else. So to work, oh, that's a dirty word. To make money, oh, this is really even worse. You want to make money? Oh, what is this? It's not noble. So this attitude translates today into is illegal in France to work more than 35 hours. And some people are illegal. It's illegal. You get arrested and you get a fine if you work more than 35 hours. It's illegal. It's going to be illegal to check your email after 5 o'clock.
No.
I promise you, this is what is going on. And now,
God.
What do they want? You know, they have a president in France. I call that Santa Claus. Santa Claus president will say, you can get everything without having to work. You're going to get everything, free Medicare, free education, free transportation, and of course, you don't have to work. You don't want to work. So today, the new aristocrat content, they're not the aristocrat. They kill all of them during the revolution. We invented the guillotine, which was very efficient. So, but the new aristocrats are the communists, the socialists, the trade unions, all the people that want to push for the privilege. And so you see what is interesting is that, unfortunately, I would say, the French are more French than ever. The culture didn't change. The content changed. It's not the same people there. And you know, a good example is what I call the best American that the French ever had, and the one I call the American is Napoleon.
Oh.
So Napoleon was an American. Why? Because he was a self-made man. He was nobody. So when he was Bonaparte, he was against the privilege. Against what? Against the people who had privilege. So he wanted to kill them. But when he had killed most of them, he decided to become an emperor, and he crowned himself. There is a big painting by David where he said, you know, he captured the Pope as prisoner to make sure that it was very unofficial ceremony, and to Notre Dame in Paris, the Pope was there as a prisoner. And when the Pope was going to put the crown on his head, he said, oh, I don't need you, you're nobody. So he took the crown and he crowned himself. Right? But now that he's an emperor, Emperor Napoleon the First, right? What does he do? He restores the privilege. He wants his mother to have privilege, his brothers to have privilege. He put privileged kings all over Europe. In Holland, in Sweden, he put all the kings that the monarchy that exists today were created by Napoleon. So he restored. So which means that the structure of privilege is still part today of the French culture. But they change the content. They're not against privilege. They're against other people having the privilege.
Ah, that's a big difference.
That's right.
That's a huge difference. Wow, this is definitely didn't expect to go there. That's really fascinating. We got a couple minutes here left to go, and I got about 2 questions left here. Does religion play a different part? Because it sounds like it did here. Does religion play a different part in the culture code? For instance, Arab countries compared to
yes.
Yeah, how does that play in?
Yeah, absolutely. You see, religion for me means religaré, or to bound together. So the purpose of religion is a set of beliefs that bound a group of people together. But the key element for me for religion is, first, there is a big deception coming from science. The purpose of science is to increase anxiety. So this is the purpose of science. Why? Because one day they say, oh, new research and coffee is good for your health. Okay, so if you drink 5 cups of coffee a day, you're not going to have prostate cancer. Oh, hold on, new research, coffee is bad if you are going to have a stomach ulcer. So I stop. Oh, new research, coffee is good. Okay, make up your mind, guys, you say. So, but this is the main purpose of science, is to keep looking and keep searching and keep asking new questions. So the purpose of science is to increase anxiety. Now we have too many scientists around. So there is too many anxiety. So what is the role of religion? To give the answer. There is one answer. Oh, so, you know, the research has been done on 2 groups of people in an hospital, 1 group of scientists and 1 group of religious people, right? And they have the same disease, same socioeconomic, same everything. They're just different, you know, religious versus scientists. Which one die first?
Scientists?
The scientists, they know too much. In America, the physician are the one that commit, the profession that commit the most suicide in America are the physician.
Really?
Why? They know too much. You see, so what do you want? You want, it's better to have, give me an answer, a simple answer, then I don't have to worry, you know, and so whatever, I respect all beliefs, but they are beliefs. Where are we coming from? Where are we going? Nobody's giving us an answer. No scientist can explain that. You know, the Big Bang. Okay, Big Bang. Now they say, no, the Big Bang didn't exist. Oh, okay, so I thought the Big Bang existed. No, it doesn't exist anymore. Okay, all right. So then the time was that, and after that, Mr. Enchanter, the time is not that, it's relative. Oh, okay, all right. So, you know, it is very difficult to follow this crazy scientist, you know. So that's why Einstein was playing the violin every day, because he needed some relaxation. So, but religion is the answer. You know, science brings more questions. Religion is the answer, and the religion are different from one culture to another. See, for example, I'm very interested in India. I've been studying India for half a century now, and it's fascinating to study Indian culture. Why? They have 3,000 official gods.
3,000 gods?
1,000. So official, which means they have a lot more that are not official. Right? And you know, the culture is you negotiate with the gods. So they have a little altar in the house, and let me go see Ganesha, and I'm going to ask Ganesha to do that and that for me. 2 weeks later, Ganesha didn't do it for me, so I take all the things that I put for Ganesha and I put it to Shiva or somebody else. I mean, this is, oh, come on. So you negotiate with the gods. You see, so very different from the Muslim or the Catholic. You know, so the religion, the fact that there is a sacred text that dictates what you should do is one thing. Some other religion, and some others are not even religion. Confucius, which is very important in China, is not really a religion. It's more like a philosophy. It's more like a way of relating to people. So that influenced completely the different, different cultures. And you can see the result of some of these. Unfortunately, I might say the Muslim are still stuck somewhere in the medieval time, and they're not very successful. When you go to Singapore, where you just lost a brilliant man that I respect very much, Lee Kuan Yew, that was the founder of Singapore, just died. But he created another culture there, where Muslim, Hindu, Chinese, Malay can live together, and there is less than 2% unemployment in Singapore.
Really?
Well, I think Mr. Holland, I want him to be an intern in Singapore to learn about what they do over there.
Poor France is getting beat up today. I got two more questions for you. One of them is different cultures. We talk about different countries. Right. Is there a different culture within the country? Is there a different culture between south of France and north of France?
Yes. Well, you know, the notion of nation is artificial. Has been invented by the guy we spoke about, Napoleon, because he wanted to mobilize all the people in France to attack all the countries around the rest of Europe. So he invented the notion of nation, but that was new. The nationalism was created at that time, by Napoleon. So if you look at the British monarchy, the British royalty, right? They're not really British. All of them are German origin that changed their name during the First World War, right? And so, and then if you look at the blazon of England, it's completely French. Why? Because that was William the Conqueror, Guillaume le Conquérant was French, that invaded England, and so Dieu est mon droit, this is in French. The logo is for Normandy, the other one is the King of France. I mean, everything in this blazon that is supposed to be British is French. So German with French blazon, that's what makes the British. I mean, come on, let's be serious, right? And all the nobility of the time, they were marrying each other. They were, the King of Spain is a Bourbon, which is a descendant of the French king. You see, so this notion of nation is new. Unfortunately, it creates nationalism, and the risk of violence and war that we have seen. But I believe that the notion of nation is going to disappear. Iraq is not a nation. Syria is not a nation. I mean, all this part of the world are falling apart because this nation was artificially created by the European after the war. You see, this is so. What is going to replace that? I think that I hope cultures will replace that, because you know the Kurd is a culture. But there are some of Kurds are in Kurdistan, some are in Turkey, some are in Iraq. So they are a culture without land. You see, this is what is key here. The future of nation is to respect the subcultures, and that's what is important here. I think that the Scots tried to separate from England recently, right?
Excuse me.
But there is still a need to understand that there is some uniqueness into Scotland. The Scotland are not English.
Right.
You see, they're not English. The English were the enemy, which they had in common with the French. That's why they had, at a certain time, the same queen that was Queen of England, and Queen of Scotland, and Queen of France at the same time. There is a great connection between the religion, which is Catholic, together. So the future is to respect the mosaic of different culture that you have, not to try to melt them, not to try to reduce them, but to give them the possibility to grow and be respected. But they have to respect each other, of course. You know, you cannot reinforce a group that want to destroy the others. That's what is key here. So I wrote one of my book about that, which is I want the united culture of the world to replace the United Nations of the world.
Interesting idea. I like that. Let me ask you this final question. Do you see any, or would you recommend to any of your clients an upcoming culture that you see that could be big for them in marketing sense? Somebody that's developing, growing, or anything?
Well, first of all, what is key here, that's the subject of my next book, called the Global Code, is that you need to benchmark the world. Benchmark the world. You know, so where do you have the best food? But when do you have the best social security system? When do you have the best education? When do you have the best safety? Whatever. I mean, you can look at this dimension, and the leaders should be able to grab the best of each culture and use it. You see, but the same for corporations. Same for corporations. Who are the best team leaders? What are the best culture for team leaders? I can tell you, I work for most of the big corporations in the world. I never found in an American company or Dutch company or French company a Chinese that is successful. Never. Oh,
really?
So Chinese culture, they cannot deal with that. I never found a Japanese that is successful. But I always found Indian from India. Very interesting, you know, that the head of Pepsi is an Indian woman doing very well. So there are some cultures like that are more open to diversity, to accepting the different point of view. I mean, the Australians are very good in being global leaders, CEOs of major corporations. I'm currently working with a brilliant CEO from Australia. And so you see, there are some cultures. The French are good if they're not French anymore. So when they open their mind, I mean, the LVMH, I mean, the leader of LVMH lived in New York for like 20 years and so on. So they open their mind, but otherwise they're too sectarian. So I didn't find any global leader CEO that is Russian. No Russian.
Oh, that's right.
So some culture, they have a tendency to go back in time to medieval time and to try to preserve the past. You know, some others are very open to create. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore created a fantastic culture. Why? Because in 1965 they had nothing, no land, no gas, no money, no population, nothing. So he said, okay, guys, well, no choice. We have to succeed. Let's start working very hard, you know. So, and today they are one of the richest place in the world. So it's possible. What I mean is that you can always find alibis and try to blame somebody else. Yeah? But this is a good example of how to pull together different cultures. And now there is no corporation that can work without a multicultural team. You need a multicultural team, because when you create a product, you have to go and sell the product in China, in India, in Middle East, in Brazil, in Argentina, everywhere. You need to go over there. That's why we are there. That's why I have offices in all these places. But you need to deal with these people. I mean, the Brazilians don't think the same way that the Argentinian, the Chinese don't think the same way as the Koreans. So you need to have a team leader that can understand the cultural differences, but at the same time can help these people to work together as a team.
Well, I got one last question now. It popped up in my head. What do you think about the Cuban culture? Because I'm Cuban.
Oh, this is first. I love Cuban food.
Oh, good.
Second, I love Cuban cigars, of course. I think the Cuban culture. I have a very good friend that is Cuban on television. Very nice. So I think the Cuban culture has to be understood not just as Cuban from Cuba, but Cuban in America. You see, I think that I live in Florida and in Miami. The Cuban culture here is very powerful, very important. So, but that's already some Cuban, quote to Cuban, were born there. They were not born in Cuba, you see. So I think when a culture is in danger, people pull together to preserve it. And I think that's what the Cuban did, I think, in Miami and in the US. They felt that they were losing something, that something was disappearing, and they felt that they have to protect this culture. And I really believe that America, for me, is one of the best places to be Cuban. It's the best place to be French. It's the best place to be German. It's the best place to be Irish. I mean, when you go to France, you never see the Irish party, Irish parade in France. You don't see that. But in America, there is an Irish parade. You can have a Cuban parade. So I was born in France. I was not proud to be French. I didn't like the French lost the war. I mean, there was I didn't identify with the French. Then I became an American. And then people say, oh, Paris, you were born in Paris? Oh, Paris, the food and the romance. And I said, well, maybe. So step by step, the American may be proud of my origins, you see, and I never found that anywhere. And so I think that in some way we can say that you can be, because you're an American, I suppose, you can be proud to be Cuban in the American culture, the same way that suddenly I become proud to be French sometime.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rapaille. Fabulous
pleasure.
Interview. Fabulous stuff. Once again, here's a book, The Culture Code. I've read it twice. At least you have to read it twice. Highly recommended, Culture Code. Dr. Rapaille, thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Remember, our motto is simple. Wherever there's psychology involved, no matter what culture you're in, we're going to be there. We'll see you next time, everyone.